What's up, everybody? It's Disposable Hero coming to you live through the PS4. Hey, what's up? I don't get on camera too much. Now, in case you could not tell by the name of this video, this is a spoiler-heavy review of Final Fantasy VII. I've played the game. I've not fully completed it yet. I plan to, but I have beaten the game. And, you know, I'm just trying to kind of bide time here for a minute. Oh, yeah, go ahead and put her down. I'll let you later. What are you doing, girl? What? Yeah. We got another person joining us here. Anyways, well, I figure I've bided enough time now, but I'm going to give you one last chance here. This is a spoiler-heavy review of Final Fantasy VII. It's not going to be one of these big, huge, long videos like everybody else does. I'm going to try to at least get enough time in there to where the video does archive. So I guess let's talk about the cons of the game first. Except for the major con, I'll leave at the end because there really aren't that many. You know, one of my biggest complaints, I guess, as y'all saw in one of the videos, was that although you would you had just come from a certain area, if you have moved on to another chapter in the story, if you try to go backwards into that area, you can't do that. I mean, I understand that Midgar was always going to be the first part of this game, and Midgar has always been a very linear part of Final Fantasy. However, you've been able to go back to other areas and explore and stuff like that. And whereas that does open up a little while later down the road, some of the things weren't there like they should have been. For example, when you're going down the tunnel in the after you jump off the train. You know, in the old Final Fantasy VII, you could go all the way back the opposite way and, you know, find some extra stuff. And it was just like they would keep turning you around and saying, warning, you know, somehow telling you were going the wrong way, which I just thought was kind of dumb. Another complaint that I have that's pretty legitimate, I think, is that this game looks amazing in the graphics. Absolutely amazing. But some of the pictures they have, I don't know if it was a shout out to Final Fantasy VII Classic Mode 97, but they almost look pre-rendered. I mean, they're really pixelated, really fuzzy. Some of the instances I can think of when you're standing, when you're working your way up the plate for Sector 7, and you look down and you see Midgar below you, or the slums rather, or if you look up at the upper plate. I did like the fact that they made the upper plate look kind of look like the sky with lights looking like stars and stuff, but still some of the pictures were just really muddy. See, I'm trying to think of a few more cons. Like I said, there's not that many. Another complaint that I have is the fact that I don't know why, but they're right towards a pretty decent little chunk there at the end. You finally get Red 13 in your party, but for some unknown reason, Square Enix made it to where you could not control Red 13 in your party, which is a little bit ridiculous. At first I thought, well, maybe it's because of the party switching that you're doing mechanics, but that's not it, because you do have to switch parties at certain points in the game, and it just doesn't make any sense why they couldn't have made Red 13 controllable in that situation. I have absolutely no idea why. The only reason that I can think of is they haven't quite figured out how to make Red 13 work in combat. If y'all remember, he was the first four-legged creature, or for that matter, I believe he was the first creature in Final Fantasy that was a non-human and didn't, I mean, you could argue Terra was a half-breed, half-human, half-Esper, but he's truly been the first, like, non-human character that walks on four legs, and I guess maybe they were having trouble with how he would work in combat. I don't get it, because you can see him doing his limit break, or at least one of his abilities is called Stardust Ray, which was his limit break in Final Fantasy VII Classic. So the only reason I could think of that you wouldn't have Red 13 controllable is because they were having trouble implementing him in combat. Again, I don't really understand how you'd make that, how you'd have that much trouble. I mean, in his attack animation in the original Final Fantasy VII was he'd do a little flip and like bite you. It kind of looked like to me, if I remember correctly. So, I mean, they had him, you know, pulling switches and stuff like that when you were doing the party switch. So I don't see why, again, why they couldn't have implemented his combat to be like biting and, you know, like maybe one of his abilities be that little somersault bite. It would have been really cool to give, like, you know, to set it up where he could, like, you know, you get pinned down by some of those dogs sometimes. It'd be awesome if he had a move like that to where you could pin an enemy down and everybody concentrate on him. That'd be a really good way to implement Red 13 in combat, to give him a stun lock, so to speak. Beyond that, there's really not too many cons besides the one that I'm probably going to talk about here in the end. Now, as far as the pros are absolutely, I mean, there's many of them. The graphics overall, besides the muddy textures, look absolutely great. As much as I would have liked to see turn-based combat, because I'm more of a Final Fantasy VII purist, I like the classic mode. The game was a very big game during my childhood. When it came out, I had just moved to Chattanooga, Tennessee. I didn't have any friends, so this was the first game I really popped into my PlayStation, and it was awesome. It kept me from having a lot of super lonely nights. So, you know, again, the graphics are great, and I was talking about the turn-based combat. I love the new combat system, I really do. It's exciting, it's fast-paced, but you can also slow it down at any point in which you need to. I absolutely love it. It's less, to me, it's less grindy than Final Fantasy VII Classic. I know a lot of people might complain and say, well, you know, you still have to run around a lot. I mean, yeah, you do have to run around a lot and stuff like that. I'm not going to sit here and say that the side quests are the same quality as the Witcher side quests. They're not. But I also didn't really see them as just a fetch quest, because they did have a deeper meaning behind them as far as like you were doing something with it. You were helping rebuild the town. You were helping helping out your fellow neighbor, as it were. So most of them did have meaning behind them, even if there wasn't a huge character development with those side quest characters like The Witcher. Now, another thing I do want to talk about, Biggs, Wedge, and Jesse, Johnny, a lot of the characters that were in it got really fleshed out, some more than others. Jessie did. I thought her story arc was incredible. Johnny's was meh, and then I would have to say, like, the new character they added, Roach, the new soldier. That's cool. I don't mind you adding new bosses. He seemed like a pretty wild character. I liked seeing him. It was awesome seeing Reno and everybody. But here's where I'm probably going to veer off from a lot of the other people. And again, spoiler warning. I fucking hate the ending. I absolutely hate the ending of this game. I cannot stand it. It's a slap in the face to any of the real fans of this game. And the reason that I say that is because when this game was announced at E3 2015, I'm sure all you have to do is look up E3 2015 Final Fantasy VII reveal trailer, and you will see that the narration and everything like that, I believe Maximilian Dude, he points it out as well. That trailer was made for fans of the original game, and this has to be, out of all the other Final Fantasies, of any of them that gets remade, this was requested by the fans ever since the technical demo for the PlayStation 3 back in 2005 or whatever. Fans have been yelling for this to happen. We've all seen the emergency, in case of emergency, press button meme, and I think the ending was a slap in the face to fans. You don't take that fucking much of a liberty with these stories. I don't mind you taking certain liberties with the story. I don't mind that at all. I don't mind you changing up certain parts of the story. For example, Wedge doesn't die right at the first part of the game, but right at the first part when he normally does. But later on in the game, you think that there's a spot where he still could die. And if he would have died, I would have been cool with that. But no, he fucking lives. And then Biggs lives at the end. There's some whole... They basically fucking did the Star Trek reboot alternate timeline theory just so that they could make it to where Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 or whatever has some surprises that you don't know are coming. That's not what we fucking wanted. I appreciate the creativity, but it's not what we wanted. We wanted the game told. We wanted the game retold with better graphics and modern mechanics. Pretty much what you did right up until towards the end in the Sector 7 mission and everything like that. And for God's sake, if you're going to have somebody live that was supposed to die, you shouldn't do it anyways. But if you're going to, it should have been Jessie. I think she's everybody's favorite on that one, for sure. Voice acting was great, and I loved Wedge's voice actor. But I mean, come on, I guess they had to keep her dead because she was all flirty with Cloud. I don't know, but you don't change the story that fucking much. Anybody that wants to argue that, I will provide this as an example. That what happened in this game is the equivalent of watching Star Wars. The Empire Strikes Back, I believe, and Luke Skywalker does not get his hand cut off in the new remake edition. You know, Darth Vader cuts his fucking hand off, and that's the way it should always be. Biggs, Wedge, and Jesse died. That's the way it should be. Don't give me this harbinger of fate shit, and we're gonna fight destiny and everything like that. It's horseshit. It's absolutely horseshit. And then he said that one thing about the 7 seconds. You know, you have 7 seconds something. I think, and somebody from a group on Facebook put this idea into my head, that maybe, you know, because I have this theory, like, if you're going to do this alternate timeline shit, then in the future games, and somebody please get this to Square Enix, because they need to hear this, and Tetsuya Nomura. If you're going to do this timeline thing, then you should have nexus points or something like that, in which you can choose to alter time or let things play out the way that they're supposed to happen, and have 2 separate playthroughs. That adds replayability, and it appeals to both people, you know, both fans and newcomers alike. If you don't want to see, here comes the big spoiler, if you don't want to see Aerith die, then fine, you can save her. Or Aerith dies and you go on the game without her. That's the way the fucking game is supposed to be, and if you go changing major arcs like this, it's going to be bullshit. I mean, you kind of already fucked it up in the first game, because you should have at least had an option. If you were going to go this alternate timeline reboot theory, then you should have at least given us an option to where we didn't have to save Wedge. We could have let him die like he was supposed to. You know, just like Barrett. Barrett got killed and then revived by the Whispers. So I guess it's not too late in some sense, because the Whispers are gone, so you could be the guy that determines whether fate plays out the same or not. It still doesn't fix the situation with Wedge and Biggs waking up in waking up and being healthy. So that alternate timeline is there, and that's crazy. And then Zack survived. I don't know. It was just very fucking convoluted. And you're just trying to do way too much. You don't fix it if it's not broken. The story is great, and the game has sold as many millions of copies as it has, like 11 or 12 million now, I think, because it is a classic story. You don't remake that shit. And like I said, if you're going to do it, then go ahead and make it to where the player chooses. And you've got 2 totally different games. There's nothing but praise going to be said about that. Adds replayability, and it honors both stories. The other thing about that was, the other thing, I don't get how Biggs made it through. He passed out, presumably dead. It wasn't like a pass out. It looked like he was dying. He talked till he faded off, and he was on the Sector 7 plate, and it collapsed. Who the fuck got him out of there? Because Cloud goes running on up past him. Tifa either runs on up past him, or she's there. No, I think she's only there when Jessie dies. But even if she was there when Biggs died, then she runs on up. Who the fuck gets him and saves him from being right there at the area where everyone is already evacuating. Who the fuck ran up there, up those stairs, and got him before the plate was blown up and collapsed? It just makes no damn sense. So overall, I have to get, as much as I wanted to give this game a 9 or even a 10 out of 10, I'm going to give it an 8. It's definitely an 8 out of 10. I recommend it. It's a great, fantastic game. Go out and buy it. Without a doubt. I don't think I can put it up there for Game of the Year because it's going to be a multi-part game, and just with everything coming out, I don't think they're going to do it. But definitely an 8 out of 10. Mainly what brought it down was it was the muddied graphics on some of the backgrounds. It was pretty much the cons that I talked about at the first of this video. I didn't really like the fact that you couldn't control Red 13. The ending, I'm not going to knock it for the ending. I'm not going to knock any points off for anything like that, because even though I didn't like it, I don't feel that I can knock points off for something like that. I just feel like it's ethically wrong, because it was gorgeous. It played out well. It was fun. It just fucking sucked what they tried to do with it. Tetsuya Nomura, anybody at Square Enix, please, dear God, stop this alternate timeline shit. And to quote Barrett, if there ain't no getting off this train we're on, if you've already started it, that's fine, but make it to give us Nexus points. Make it to where we can choose those characters' fates. It gives you a good reason, not an excuse, but a good reason to play the game on a second playthrough, because it's got a whole different story, which could transcend to future episodes as well. So, just don't take that with a grain of salt. You're treading on hallowed ground, and so therefore you should tread carefully. So I hope everybody enjoyed this short review. Y'all take it easy, and as always, game the fuck on, man. Peace. As always, please be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and I will talk to y'all later.